Hey guys, thanks again for tuning in to FTR with Dax Harwood. We're about to get started, but I want to ask you guys a favor. If you love the show, if you're on YouTube, go ahead and hit subscribe. If you're listening on your podcast platform, go ahead and hit subscribe. Also, if you want to get a t-shirt, we have some brand new t-shirts over at daxharwood.com. In association with our good friends at Box of Gimmicks, we have some awesome designs. There's this great Day of the Dead design that people really love. It's got tequila. It's fantastic. Or if you just want the silhouette of Dax Harwood or the logo of the show or a shirt that says bald, ugly, muffin top, it's for you. Go to daxharwood.com. And if you want to advertise with us, please go to advertisewithftr.com. Advertisewithftr.com is where a lot of our great sponsors come from. Let's get to the show. Hello, wrestling friends. I'm Matt Coon, which means you're listening to FTR with the star of our show, Dax Harwood. Dax Harwood, how are you doing on this lovely day?
I don't know if I'd call me the star of the show. I just happen to be here, but today doing good, man. Again, another day at home and enjoying the time I have here and starting to get the itch again to wrestle.
I saw that. I saw you posted that on Twitter, and a lot of people are making observations. You posted it right before Dynamite. But that's just you. It just happened to be that time where you, yeah. I was reading everything, right?
Dude, so we, on Wednesday I don't know. I just got up and I had coffee and I started watching wrestling because Finley and Maria were still asleep. And I wish I would have tweeted that 2 days before or something, but there was no correlation there, none at all. I just happened to be watching wrestling, drinking coffee, and the 2 times in the day when I have endorphins completely running through my body. It's my first cup of coffee, especially if I'm watching wrestling, and then my first drink of tequila. So that's all it was endorphins. And really, I really do miss wrestling, but I still have to take things easy, let my body rest, let my mind rest, recuperate, and just be ready for if we come back before April. I would absolutely love that. If Tony is on board with that, and if that's what he wants, I would love to. And if that's not what he wants, then it's his company, and I will do whatever he says because I trust him and he's the boss.
And at the same time, at the FTR with Dax Twitter, I knew this show was coming up. We're doing it on the Usos today, your history and kind of a lot more. And I started just kind of vague tweeting just pictures of you guys and the Usos. And some of the responses and the replies were like, ooh, this means something. No, guys, it's just me tweeting, promoting the show, just promoting the show. And
hold on. My maid's bringing me a cup of water. Over here.
Hold up.
Over here.
I hope that's your daughter.
Hand it here.
Talk to your wife like that, you're in a lot of trouble.
She's handed me my water with a middle finger sticking up.
So you're going to pay for that later. Lots going on, and we have a huge announcement we're going to make in just a couple minutes. But before that, I said you tweeted, I miss wrestling right before Dynamite. And on Dynamite, something happened on Dynamite, and I want to get your thoughts on that. The Ass Boys won the tag team titles. You've said before that you kind of, you respect that they've worked. They're not your kind of guys, really. What are your thoughts on the Ass Boys getting that tag team championship in AEW?
They've, I got a lot of feelings on it, I guess. Trying to be diplomatic here. There are a couple of guys who I will say study the craft and try to be better. They also are a couple of guys who made it to the top because of their dad, who their father is. So they've never had to be in the trenches, or they've never had to, travel to these little shitty shows to make a buck or to get seen. So all they know is AEW, and all they know is national television wrestling. And with that, they may not think it, and they may not be doing it on purpose, but with that, they think that everything should be catered to them. So personally, we have different thoughts and ideologies, and that's okay. That, you know, you're not going to get along with everyone. But I will say that there aren't too many acts in professional wrestling now that people absolutely despise. And they despise these guys, and they get the ass boys chants. And when people won the tag belts, the people were mad. And if you think about what wrestling is, you want people to be mad, or you want them to feel a certain way. And they felt a certain way about that title change. Who knows what's going to happen in the future? You know what I mean? Who knows where this story is going? But the thing is also, there has been a story to this. There has been a story to this for a year. This is a year-long story that I wish the people would stop and think, oh my gosh, you're right. Okay. There is a backstory. There is a long history between these two. And this is just another chapter in that story. So, you know, congratulations to them. Their first ever tag team championships they've ever had. So congrats to them, and I look forward to seeing what the Ass Boys and the Acclaim do next.
It's interesting because everybody was upset, but when you look at what they were upset about, they're upset about a very popular tag team losing to a very hated tag team.
Right.
You don't see it that much, but it's kind of cool to see in a way, right?
Right, absolutely. It's a feeling and a reaction that harkens back to the older days of wrestling, whenever you did book for heat, and that's how you drew your money, and that's how you drew your fan base, how you built them up. The thing is that a lot of people don't understand that this made the people feel even more for the Acclaimed, who are AEW's biggest baby faces, bar none, right? And this makes them feel even stronger for these guys. And they're in the wrestling world, and in life too, you have a redemption story. You always have a redemption story. And I can't wait to see the Acclaim's hold on. Take two. I can't wait to see the Acclaim's redemption story and see how much more the people care about them.
And that is something about Tony Khan and AEW, is that you're pretty confident they're going to get that redemption story. There's not a lot of, a story like that getting just dropped as it would another company, or do you think that's an overreach by me?
I think that every person in the world can associate with redemption, a redemption story, or overcoming the odds, or winning. Everybody's failed in life. And when you fail in life at something, that's the heat, that's the heat life gets. But you always valiantly fight back to win again. And that's what the people are going to connect with. And that's why I've said so many times about when I've talked about the baby faces and the heels. You make the baby faces because everybody wants to associate themselves as a baby face. On the surface and on the exterior, they may think it's cooler to be a heel, or they want to present themselves as, oh, I'm cocky, I'm egotistical. But deep down, everybody is a baby face at something, in some point in their life, they've been a baby face. And so they all can associate, with that story. In saying that, that's a wrestler's job as a heel, is to make this baby face even more so that people love them even more. So the ratings, the houses, everything goes up so we can all make money across the board. Well,
that is a great description of it. And I guess maybe we're getting our own redemption story as well. And we're going to make a big announcement about that in just a minute. But first, it's a little early, but do we still have a tequila of the week?
Yeah, dude, I was worried about this. This is we're recording earlier than usual. It's not the morning time or anything.
No, it is decidedly afternoon.
Yeah, it is definitely afternoon, but man, this is still an early one. But yes, of course, I have a tequila of the day. It's one I'm very excited about. This is El Tesoro, and I said it in that accent because it makes me feel cool. I was also told, and I was thinking about this earlier this week, but I was told by a friend of mine on Twitter, Ming's Mullet, go follow him if you want. that it is not Jalisco, Mexico. I knew I sounded like a stupid redneck saying that.
Sorry.
I should have known that. But it's Jalisco,
Right.
is what it's called. So that's where the tequila is made. But this is Go ahead, Simon.
I kind of consider this segment Tequila of the Week also called Dax Pronounces Spanish Words.
Yes.
And I enjoy it every time.
Dax pronounces Spanish words really bad. Listen, people, I can barely pronounce the English language, okay? I'm working on that. I'm trying to get better at that, so give me a break. But yes, this one's 100% pure agave. This is additive-free. This is one of the more popular brands among tequila snobs. They love this one. It's pure. Apparently, the agave is all there. All right, so here we go. There we go, the pop.
It's a happy sound.
And so now we're going to pour. And I've never described how you detect aromas in a tequila. And so what you do now is you take your glass and you put it right at the bottom of your nose. So both nostrils in there, and you take a little sip. Okay. First, very, 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 very first thing I smell is the agave. Agave, when it's cooked, is kind of a sweetener. It's like honey, kind of a little earthy, a little more earthy than honey, but it's a sweet agave smell. Then pepper and citrus. That's what I smell here. All right, so now we're going to try this little taste here. First flavor. Here we go. Ooh, very good. Very herbal, very earthy. First thing I taste, the very first thing, which makes it a great tequila, is the agave. The very first thing you taste. And then I think the next thing is the black pepper. Gives it a little bit of that kick. And across the palate where it lasts a little longer is the citrus. After you swallow it, and after a little while, the citrus lingers there for a bit. So yeah, that's really good, dude. Yeah, very good. I would give this one an 8.2 out of 10 on the tequila scale. Yeah, it's very, very good. I would definitely buy it again. It's around the $69 range. I'm sure Mojo Raleigh loves that. It's around the $69 range. So it's not the cheapest tequila you can get, but it's a good quality. Not my favorite Blanco I've had. I think so far my favorite Blanco that I've ever had, if we keep everything into consideration, price point, quality, taste, would probably be Tequila Ocho, which I don't think we've done a review on Tequila Ocho yet, which we will soon. But this one's right up there, man. This one's really good too.
And what is the brand name again of this tequila for our listeners that want to follow along with us?
El Tesoro.
El Tesoro.
Yes.
Well, that was our tequila of a week. El Tesoro gets an 8.2. Without any further ado, let's talk about our big announcement. Dax, you've said on the past few shows that come April, we don't know what's going to happen. Really, with the podcast, everything could change. We don't really know what's going to happen. But what we do know is before that, we have ourselves our first live show, WrestleCon weekend, March 30th. FTR with Dax Harwood is having a live show. What do you think about that, Dax?
Nervous, excited, happy, all the emotions you can think of, except for mad. I'm not mad about it. I'm very excited to bring this brand of podcast into a live audience and see what we can do. I look forward to meeting everybody and saying hello and talking about whatever the hell they want to talk about.
WrestleCon, the WrestleCon Hotel, WrestleMania, as they call it, weekend, WrestleMania weekend, the Thursday. So right after the WrestleCon Super Show, for an 8 p.m. show, maybe even to kick off your WrestleMania weekend festivities. That whole weekend is a lot of fun as a fan. I guess maybe we'll have some guests. Maybe we'll talk about a couple subjects we've teased before that we haven't talked about.
It's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of tequila will be had. And like I've said many times before, tequila for me equals loose lips. So who knows what I'm going to say. And when it comes to that time anyway, who knows where I'll be. So I might not even give a shit about getting in trouble.
And maybe we talk about maybe live, because I don't know if we're ever going to talk about that on the podcast. You know what I'm referring to?
I absolutely do. And that'll be right on the cusp of contract time, so I'll let you know.
Yeah, and maybe, we'll put our phones away. And, there's been a lot of talk. People want to hear about the Pinnacle. That's something we can talk about live, too. So make sure, go to FTRwithdax.com to get your tickets. To get your tickets to our first live show, Wrestling's Hottest Podcast, now has Wrestling's Hottest Live Show. Go to FTR with Dax today. Pick up your tickets. There's going to be regular tickets and then special VIP tickets. We're going to have a good time. It's going to be a blast. We are committed to making this the best podcast live show of all time.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like we are committed to making this the best wrestling podcast in the world because of the truth that we tell, not pulling any punches, but also just we understand our audience and we don't try to portray ourselves as above our audience. We're right on the same level as they are. So I look forward to meeting everyone, talking to everyone, answering questions, and just having a good time.
It's going to be a blast. Well, speaking of good times, are you ready to talk about Jey and Jimmy, the Uso brothers?
Absolutely. One of my favorite tag teams of all time.
So let's start with this. Dax, as a longtime fan, huge wrestling freak, of course you are aware of the Anoa'i family, probably the biggest wrestling family in the history of wrestling. So big, there's branches that have all kinds of wrestlers on it. You've got Roman Reigns on one side, and then on the other side, you've got what I guess I call the Fatu tree. You have these three brothers. You have Umaga, you have the Tonga Kid, and you have Rikishi. Like, those three as brothers combined, I mean, how much do they contribute to the wrestling industry?
Yeah. I mean, just their work alone was incredible. I mean, I think that Fatu completely changed the dynamic of what a Samoan could be and how a Samoan could work. For so long, Samoans were these wild savages, and they kind of just choked and chopped and stuff. But Fatu was an incredible athlete, dude. Even as the head shrinkers, when he was that crazed animal or whatever, their work was so much different than the Samoans before. And right. Then when he transitioned to Rikishi, he just hit a whole nother audience, and he became more than just a Samoan. He became, a figure that the people loved because of him, and I think that completely introduced a whole different world for the Samoans and the Samoan wrestlers.
And of course, the Tonga Kid came into wrestling when I first started watching to rescue his cousin, Jimmy Superfly Snuka, from the coconut attack of Roddy Piper, but also was part, along with Fatu, of the Samoan SWAT team in WCW, and one of the most underrated tag team divisions ever, right?
Dude, so Tonga Kid is, to me at least, being a wrestling nerd, a huge what if. What if he would have stuck around?
Dude.
He was so incredible, man, and he had such a. I mean, so did Fatu, but he had such a natural charisma to
him. He had
as a baby face. He was an incredible baby face, but as a heel, when he was part of the Samoan SWAT team, just an incredible swagger, an incredible charisma, great athlete. For me, a huge what if in professional wrestling. But yes, Samoan SWAT team, great tag team, could work with anybody. It didn't matter if it were the Road Warriors or the Babyface Midnight Express. They could do it all.
And of course, the third brother is Umaga, who everybody loves. And everybody, in talking to those two guys, talking to the two brothers, they were like, man, we knew Umaga was the guy. Umaga was the guy. Out of the three of us, Umaga was the guy. But the story didn't stop there, because The Tonga Kid has a son named Jacob Fatu. Have you seen Jacob wrestle?
I haven't really necessarily watched a whole match of his, but I've seen clips and highlights of him. I've heard great stories about him, and from what I've seen, the snap that he has on all of his offense, being able to balance that line of realism and believability, and being an incredible athlete and being able to fly through the air, he toes that line very well.
And then, of course, Rikishi, Fatu, as we called him, had 3 sons in the industry. Solo Sikoa, who is now part of the bloodline in WWE, and the 2 fellas we're talking about right now, Jimmy and Jey Uso. Let me ask you this. With Jimmy and Jey, when was the first time you met them?
First time I met them, we were in NXT, and we took I think maybe WWE was in Orlando, and we went to the Raw show, and that was, I think, the very first time that we said hello to those guys. Then we got acquainted with them on the main roster, and great human beings, just so loving and caring, but also if you get on the wrong side of them, they'll fight you in a heartbeat.
A lot of questions like this from Twitter. How do you in this great promo by Jey Uso, God, it had to be over a year ago, where he said the thing that pissed him off the most was when a fan came up to him and asked him, which one are you, right? Because they are different human beings. They're twins, and they're about as twin can be. But what are the differences between Jey and Jimmy personally, and maybe even in the ring?
Yeah. So really quick, taking a sidebar, I don't want to make this all about us, but the same thing with Cash and I, like they used to chant at us,
yes.
Which one are you?
Yeah.
And that pissed me off, not in a good way, not like I'm a heel, I'm getting heat way. It was like, come on, you guys are being, God, I don't want to get myself in trouble with anybody, but that's very short.
Assholes.
Yeah, you're being very short-sighted right now, and so that would bother me too. So I completely understand where he's coming from, but as far as the differences, them in the back, I would say Jimmy is a little more playful than Jey. I mean, but they're both great human beings. Jey is a little more serious, but they have more similarities than they do differences, just because they grew up in a family that I'm sure taught respect to them, because they're respectful human beings. And there's not one person in that locker room when I was there that ever had a bad thing to say about them.
And it's interesting with this new era of WWE booking, that is exactly how they're presented. Jimmy is presented as the more easily to go to someone and talk to them and be friendly, and Jey is presented as a more serious one, a more thoughtful one. It's kind of a credit to WWE now that they're actually amplifying off the real characters.
Yeah, I would say that Jey probably has a little bit of a shorter fuse than Jimmy. But yeah, if you're on the good side of them, you're good to go. If you're on the bad side of them, you might want to watch your back.
Now, I was surprised at how recently your first meeting with them was. I texted you earlier and I said 2019 was the first time you wrestled. But it really wasn't, because WWE Survivor Series 2018, there was a dark Survivor Series match. And it was Big E, Epico, Eric Young, Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso, Carl Anderson, Killian Dane, Luke Gallows, Primo, and Xavier Woods versus Bo Dallas, Bobby Roode, Chad Gable, Curtis Axel, Dash Wilder, Grand Mettelli, Connor, Lynn Serrato, Scott Dawson, and Victor. What do you remember of this match, or is this the first time you thought about it in a very long time?
First time I thought about it in a very long time, but I do remember the match, and it wasn't a dark match. It was on their pre-show. Okay. So there is footage of it. But I remember that there were a shit ton of people in this match. And once it got down to the Usos and New Day against, I think, myself and Cash, Bobby Roode, and Chad Gable, that's when things started lighting up. And the final two in the match were us and the Usos. And that was the first time the people had seen us on opposing sides ever working together. And, the last the last 5 minutes of that match were some of the most fun I had up until that point in WWE.
Well, make sure to check that out. I'd like to cut in with some news unrelated to this. Dax Harwood, I just finished the Clase Azul bottle.
You did?
5 shows in.
Wow.
Is that respectable? Is that a respectable amount of tequila drinking?
I mean, I guess if you're not an avid tequila drinker, yes. And that is a good introductory tequila. The only thing I'll say is from now on, though, don't expect all the tequilas to taste like that, because Clase, while it is an incredible quality, it does have some additives in it to make it a little sweeter. But now the next ones we're going to try are going to be these additive-free ones, and you'll get the real taste of agave. That'll be the next one I get to you.
Well, I thank you again for the bottle of Clase Azul. It is fantastic. Hey, did you see those fuckers, the guns, took pictures with Clase Azul bottles?
What?
Yeah. Yeah. When they won the titles.
Oh my God. I did, because I got tagged in it. Yes, I did. Someone did tag me in that. Yeah, that made me laugh a little bit. But hey, dude, if that's what gets you heat, more power to you, bro.
I'm just glad they're old enough to drink.
Yeah.
So that's really your first time in the ring with them. And before we get to you and them together, April 3rd, 2019, the Usos re-sign their contract. They were wanting, this is a time where people are looking at WWE talent and looking all elite wrestling starting up. And this was a tag team that people thought about. Do you remember when the Usos re-signed these contracts in April 2019? And I mean, as a tag team, you're looking at some bellwether shit. You're going like, which way do I go? And okay, well, they re-signed. What were your thoughts at the time?
Yeah, I remember when they re-signed, and we were pretty open about the contract statuses and stuff of each team. I was, at that time, we knew what we were going to do. You know, we weren't going to sign the contract. They had offered us, a really good amount of money there, and we were turning it down. They would eventually offer us even more, and that's the one where I had to start thinking. But we kind of had an idea at that point what we were going to do, and you know, it was exciting to us before they signed. It was exciting to us thinking that maybe they would follow us, you know, to what became AEW or whatever, because if we went to AEW and AEW had the Young Bucks, had the Usos, and had us, that would have been the 3 top tag teams in the world, being able to finally work together and being able to finally, you know, without any kind of training wheels on, we'd be able to go full bore. And it was an exciting time for me, but they did what's best for them and their families. And they owed WWE and Vince at the time, they owed them a lot for, you know, giving them a chance, and they have absolutely made the most of all the chances they've been given.
Well, guys, if you want to make the best of every chance that you're given, let's go ahead and talk about Blue Chew, because the nights are getting longer, but the breeze isn't the only thing that's getting stiff. That's right, this episode is sponsored by Blue Chew. We all know that confidence can take you far in life. That's especially true in the bedroom, especially when it's time to step up to the plate. That's where Blue Chew comes in. Blue Chew is a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, but in chewable tablets and at a fraction of the cost. You can take them anytime, day or night, so you can plan ahead or be ready whenever an opportunity arises. The process is simple. Sign up at BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. The best part? It's all done online. So no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversations, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. Blue Chew's tablets are made in the USA and prepared and shipped direct to your door in a discreet package for your discreet package. Dax Harwood, what do you have to tell everybody about Blue Chew this week?
So I told you just last night, my wife and I decided to stay home, have our date night at home, and we cooked Greek food. And we had a big pan of baklava. And I said, babe, can you get the Blue Chew? And she said, yeah, well, what do you need the Blue Chew for? I said, well, we'll throw it in this baklava and see if it grows so I can eat more of the baklava, but it only grows for me. It only makes me grow. And I appreciate Blue Chew for helping me out in that situation. It doesn't work in your food, so don't put it in your baklava, your spaghetti, your cakes, or whatever, and expect to get more and more and more. You can only expect to get more if you take it. So Blue Chew, I appreciate everything you've done for me and my relationship.
And if you don't know what baklava is, what the hell's wrong with you, really?
Oh my gosh.
It is flaky phyllo dough with pine nuts and honey and butter, and that's pretty much it. That's pretty much what's
if you don't know what baklava is, just come to my house and I will have her father make the best baklava in the world for you.
Oh, that sounds great.
But you can have my baklava, but you can't have my Blue Chew.
You may not have the Blue Chew, because if you could benefit from extra confidence when it's time to perform, chew it and do it. Have better sex. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew free when you use our promo code DAX at checkout. Just pay $5 shipping. That's bluechew.com, promo code DAX, to receive your first month free. Visit bluechew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the podcast. They've been with us since day one. They're dudes,
Yeah, man. I am very proud to have Blue Chew. It makes me think we're a successful podcast because they're our sponsors.
It was one of my favorite moments on the show ever. Was our second episode was when I started reading it. No, not the Finley walk-in, not the Finley.
Oh, okay.
But the second one, I go, this episode's brought to you by Blue Chew, and you got the biggest smile. Like, not you were laughing at it, but you were just so happy.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh, this is real now. This shit's happening.
I knew I'd made it at that point in my career.
Well, I'll tell you who has made it these days is the Usos. And 2019 was very different. There's a lot of stuff going on there. And one thing that happened it took place over 2 weeks, April 15th and 23rd of TV, was the Superstar Shakeup. A bunch of people went over to SmackDown, like Heavy Machinery, Mickie James, Apollo Crews, Finn Balor. But some people went over to Raw, like AJ Styles, The Miz, and the Usos. So tell us a little bit about these Superstar Shakeups and these drafts. We kind of hear that y'all don't know what the fuck's going on at all until it's on TV. Like, that's the rumor. That's what we've heard. You guys are surprised than anybody else. How true is that?
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. I'm sure there's a few people, like, I would imagine that if Roman wants to know where he's going, Roman's going to find out, but there are some leaks every once in a while, but more often than not, you didn't know what was going to happen, where you were going to go. And to be honest, dude, it really, aside from not being with the same people that you've been with before, there's not too much difference. You're still going to be on the road 4 days a week. You're still going to be working your ass off. And, you're still with a bunch of people you consider your family. So it's not as crucial as a lot of people make it out to be.
And it's never a serious split, right? It's never like we're splitting and we're never going to be on SmackDown ever.
Right, for sure. Especially for me and Cash at the time. Like I said, there was a time where we were on SmackDown with Randy. We were on Raw as well, working with the Usos and Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder. And we were doing NXT too. And that's when we were building up to the match with the Undisputed Era. We were on every single television show. So, in that time, it really didn't matter. You never knew where you were going to end up week to week.
Well, you certainly didn't, but you did know the Usos were coming to Raw, and right away, it just seemed like, right away, it's the Usos and the Revival. How soon did you find out you guys were going to work with each other after that shakeup?
Oh, probably the week that we first started working together. I think the first thing we might have done on television was a backstage promo. But I can't be for sure, but we would have found out the day of television that when we first worked with them. That was the first time we would have found out. I mean, of course there were rumors or people saying, you'll end up working with them, or we knew there was a pretty high probability that we end up working together. And so we were really excited that they were there with us.
Look at the memory on Dax Harwood, 4/22/19, Raw following shakeup. The Usos did a promo. The Revival showed up. The Revival started talking, and the Usos
fell asleep. Yep.
They fell asleep.
Yep, I remember that. Yep.
And then there's a remark that I'm not even going to get into. Like, it's just bullshit, WWE bullshit. But pretending that they were asleep, like you guys were boring.
Right.
How does that get you guys heat? Like, how does that help any tag team feud?
Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't get us any heat. I mean, I could see how it helps the feud, I guess, because they're calling us boring, and that should get us frustrated or upset with them. But more than anything, that's what Vince saw in us. As I've told you on this podcast since it began, that's what he felt we were. He just felt we were 2 5'10" professional wrestlers, and that's what it was. His television show. He booked that television show to entertain himself, and being able to say, "Oh, these rednecks, they're boring. Let's tell everybody they're boring. That'll be funny." And whatever. It's his billion-dollar company, so let him do what he wants to do.
And if you're proud of being bald, ugly, muffin top, 5'10", you can pick up one of our new shirts over at daxharwood.com. We have that really cool Day of the Dead design that our friend over at the Fight Boys made us as well. Also, if you like the logo behind Dax right now, you get that as a shirt. daxharwood.com. We got t-shirts now too, man. That's kind of cool. Huh?
Yeah, I love the I love the silhouette of my face as a t-shirt. I think it's pretty cool. That might be my favorite one, but also bald, ugly, muffin top. That's something you should be proud of. You know what I mean? Don't hide it. Don't try to wear baggy shirts. Find the tightest shirt. Go 2 sizes down. Show off that muffin top. Who gives a damn, dude? Show off the muffin top while you're eating donuts or while you're eating cake. Be proud of how ugly you are, because there's only a few of us in this world that are proud of being ugly, muffin top, bald, Southern, and that's me.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting when we do the live show and people see what we look like in person. And I don't know if you call what I have a muffin top. It's more like a cake. A cake.
I don't think you call it a cake, dude. I think calling it a cake nowadays, the kids are calling big asses cakes. So no, I don't think, or maybe that's what they used to call it. I don't know. I'm way out of touch too. But yeah, dude, I will tell you this. Whenever I'm not wearing trunks anymore, I will eclipse you by 4.
Well, it's going to be a lot of fun. But speaking of fun, Raw and SmackDown had a lot of great matches at this time, even though the creative was what it was. But the tag champs at the time were Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder. Mm-hmm. Of course, Matt Cardona and Brian Myers. Brian Myers, 2 great wrestlers, 2 fantastic wrestlers, 2 guys who got their due a little bit, got their WrestleMania moment against you guys. What did you think about those 2 guys? They're still doing great things, and they're going to do great things.
I was very proud of what we had accomplished for the WrestleMania match that we had with those guys. We weren't on the quote-unquote main show, so we weren't on the pay-per-view, but we were at WrestleMania in a tag team title match with 2 tag teams. And if you look back at the history of WrestleMania, there weren't too many of those matches. And there hadn't been a standard tag team match for the tag team titles on WrestleMania in a very long time. There had been tag team matches that were 4-ways or 3-ways or, multiple man ladder matches or whatever. But this was a true tag team match for the Raw Tag Team Championships. We walked in as the tag team champions on a WrestleMania stage and defended those belts. And we were all very proud of that moment. And I was very proud to give Brian Myers, Kurt Hawkins, his first win since returning to WWE. It was a big moment for him and a big moment for us too.
That's right. And they're still doing great things. Of course, they do their podcast, the Major Brothers Pod, and they like some wrestling figures, maybe a little too much. So April 22nd, 2019, following... I already did that, so I'm going to take that out. 1 second. So May 6th, it was reported by Fightful.com that the Revival was offered a $500,000 per year deal and turned it down. The belief is that Anderson and Gallows got an offer in the same region, and they also turned it down. You at the time had 11 months left on your contract, it's reported. You alluded to that before. That's a lot of fucking money, Dax Harwood.
Yeah, so that's exactly the timeline I was talking about just earlier about the money they'd offered us and we turned it down. Who reported that we turned it down?
It was reported by Fightful and confirmed by Meltzer.
Okay. Yeah, we just knew what we wanted to accomplish in wrestling, and if we had stayed there, regardless of the money that they would have given us, we wouldn't have accomplished what we thought we could have accomplished. We wouldn't have made the name for ourselves that we thought we could make. And, you know, I don't want to stay somewhere that I'm not welcome or not wanted. And I know Vince didn't want me, you know, or didn't want us or didn't care to have us. We weren't his cup of tea, and that's okay. Perfectly okay, because it's his company. And I wanted to go somewhere that we could make a name for what we were in 2016. And we weren't going to be able to do that in WWE.
Meltzer has some strong feelings about how you're used following this. He says, quote, this is about the April 29th Raw following the first segment you did with the Usos the following week. Meltzer says, quote, the idea of booking a show based around humiliating the Revival in multiple segments feels like the wrong priorities. So the insinuation is that y'all are being punished on screen, being humiliated as characters on screen for something that's a contract issue off screen. If true, how stupid is that?
Well, I mean, I don't want to say it's stupid, you know. I don't want to feed into that, because there are a lot of stupid decisions that are made in professional wrestling. If that's his prerogative to make us seem less than what we already were, that's okay. We knew after, because we'd already asked for our release. You know, we had asked for our release a year prior or something, or excuse me, a few months prior. And I thought then, you know, when we asked for our release then, I thought that was when things are going to go south for us, but it kind of took the other turn, and they gave us the belts. I guess they thought that giving us the belts would make us happy. And then they offered us the money, and we said, no, thank you. And once Cash and I talked, because they were offering contracts to everybody, crazy amount of money. And we had decided whatever they offer us, we're not going to take. And we had both, you know, talked about, well, if we don't take these contracts, you know what they're going to do. And so I understood and accepted what they were doing. And I remember they had given us these, you know, in the upcoming weeks, they had given us these, the scripts for what was going to happen, like the back shaving stuff. And we'll talk about it later, but the Ucey Hot and stuff. And the writers were so worried handing us this, that when we got it, we started laughing at it because it was funny. And they were like, okay, we thought you guys were going to be upset about this. And we're like, no, this is the stuff we've been asking to do. You know what I mean? Like, we've been trying to show, I'm asking to show more character development, more charisma, more personality. So in Vince and company trying to make us look less than and trying to quote unquote bury us, it made us happy because we were able to go out and have the fun that we had been wanting to have.
And I get that you not wanting to co-sign to me saying it was stupid, because last week we didn't even talk about this. The Young Bucks episode that we did on Full Gear, so many headlines about this is when my relationship with Tony Khan deteriorated, said Dax Harwood. This is when me and the Young Bucks didn't get along, Dax Harwood. Literally, the next sentence was, and it was my fault. And that's not the headline, right?
I meant, what I said was that my relationship with Tony or the Bucks started deteriorating because of my anxiety. But hey, let's don't put anxiety in the headline. Let's don't bring awareness to mental health. Let's just talk about the shit behind the scenes. Let's try to stir up something so I can get a few clicks. God dang, dude.
And so, because then it would have been like Dax Harwood thought the booking was stupid because I said it. So let me just say, the fact that you guys have a real situation with contracts and they take your characters, and as you say, you believe that was the intent. You believe that it was related to your contract. I feel that's weird at the very, like, objectively outside of wrestling, that's weird. Yeah. But you feel that in fact it was related to your contracts, why you're all of a sudden doing this crazy shit.
We were told that. We were told that. That's
wow.
why. Yeah. So it's not because we knew going into saying no, we weren't going to do the contracts. We knew one of two things. One, they were either going to they were going to keep us off of television and keep us out of the house shows. That way they would either starve us and we couldn't make our money and completely make the people forget about us, or they were going to bring us to TV and make us do embarrassing, silly stuff or make us lose every single week, which we had been doing anyway, but to try to devalue us as characters. So we knew one of those were going to happen. And then when they told us they were worried about giving us these scripts because they thought we were going to be mad, we were told point blank because we weren't going to sign. And that was their course of action, was to make sure that us as characters weren't any more valuable than what we had, the little bit of value we had then.
All right. Well, it's weird. Let's talk about this Raw. So the Usos did another promo on the April 29th, 2019 Raw and said they had filmed something earlier in the day. The infamous video of you getting your back shaved by Dash Wilder. Both were only wearing towels, and Dawson, you, had shaving cream all over his back, and Dan was shaving him. And Meltzer had this to say, and then I'm going to get your opinion, which might be different. Meltzer said, I will say they come up with unique ideas to bury talent that they have under contract for another year.
Yeah. So when that was presented to us, and obviously it's for embarrassing. I'm thinking like, this is childish shit. Like, it's not even funny.
Right.
Like, where's
the money?
What is supposed to be embarrassing about someone shaving my back? Is it supposed to be embarrassing because Vince thinks it's effeminate? You know what I mean?
Yep.
Is that, him subjecting a certain group of humanity as an embarrassment to humanity? You know what I mean? Like, so I started, I'm thinking like, what is the embarrassment? Because it's not embarrassing. Like, the most embarrassing thing is when we might talk about it later, when Cash was walking backwards out of the entranceway and he tripped over the brand new entranceway. Like, that's embarrassing shit. That's funny. If they caught me shitting my pants, that's embarrassing. But to say that my friend is shaving my back in the shower while we're naked, why is that embarrassing? Because it's apparently effeminate. That's, to me, more. Yeah, that to me is I don't know. That's just,
it's borderline something.
Yes, we'll leave it at that. Borderline something.
Borderline something. How many wrestlers shave their bodies and shave their backs and have their partners or their friends help them? Like, Vince McMahon came out to a match, he's basically hairless. Like, this isn't the most uncommon thing in the world, in the wrestling world, right?
No, no. I think Dan and I are probably the only two wrestlers in the world right now who have complete body hair everywhere. We're the ones who don't shave. It's a company that's image is mostly based on guys who are wearing wrestling trunks that look like underwear, completely shaven and oiled up. That's supposed to be the most embarrassing thing for us. Whatever. That's toilet humor, and that's what Vince likes, I guess.
Okay. So your attitude is, at the moment, we're going to fucking just go for it and just do our best we can, embrace it, do the best we can, do our jobs, not sell that it's pissing us off. Is it all those things?
Yes. Because even though it didn't piss us off at all, even though we weren't upset about it at all, weren't mad about it at all, if there was some sign, if I made a side eye or anything of that nature, they're like, we got him. We got him. You know what I mean? And I didn't want to give them that pleasure.
And the show ends with the Revival going down to the ring to attack Seth Rollins, and you guys both get laid out by the curb stomp. So you guys are shaving each other's backs. You're getting made fun of. It's supposed to be funny, and then you get curb stomped. How are you feeling at this moment?
Yeah, I don't even remember the curb stomp. I don't remember that. I was even thinking today, because I was thinking about a match that Seth had, and I was like, man, I never got the opportunity to work with him. I really, really missed an opportunity to work with him. I hope I get to. But I don't even remember that. I don't think there was any follow-up to him curb stomping us, right?
No. It's just another way to make you guys look like shit for not signing your contracts.
We came out after, shaving our backs or whatever. We came out, and we didn't do anything with him prior, I don't believe. I could be wrong, but I don't believe. So we came out just as bodies, which they could have gotten any of the 20 locals that they hire and bring to every TV. They could have got to do that. But instead, they got us to go out there to take the curb stomp from Seth, who had just had a match, right? Am I right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
so he was wrestling. We were fresh. He was not fresh, and we took 2 curb stomps. So
we're answering a lot of the questions that we get on Twitter. Rachel Struck asked us on Twitter the whole back shaving thing, whose idea was it? And the answer is probably Vince, but delivered to you by a trembling writer. Is that correct?
Yes, it was. Yeah, 100% Vince's idea, but given to us by 2 writers at the time, and they were both so worried. Not worried that we were going to fight him or anything, just worried that we were going to be upset and things we were going to say or whatever. But we weren't. We took it in stride and laughed about it.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why they're nervous, because I mean, how do you even say those words? Well, here's the deal. We need a pre-tape today, and do you have shaving cream? It's just ridiculous.
Makes no sense, dude.
But that's what it was. A lot of 2019 WWE made no sense. The following week, May 6, 2019, Raw, they announced Gallows and Anderson versus the Revival. These were 2 teams that people were pretty sure was going to leave. And Meltzer says actually something funny. He says this was tough because if the bell rang, both teams would have to lose, which is really funny because neither one were on good terms, right?
So, yeah, but I remember, and I just actually talked to Carl Anderson about this recently, but there was a running joke between us that it was because we worked together so much throughout the year. From 2018 until now, that they didn't care who won, just whoever won before the other team would win the next time. And so we would always play the game of flip-flopping, and we would say, oh yeah, it's your turn to win today. And then we had a match on Raw, and we came back, or excuse me, at Royal Rumble. Or maybe it was Raw, I can't remember, whatever. Anyway, we come to the back and Vince is waiting for us. All 4 of us, and we thought the match was good. I mean, it was like a 8-minute match or whatever. We came to the back, and he said, well, that is absolutely the worst wrestling match I've ever seen in my entire life. The worst wrestling match he's ever seen, Matt. The worst. This man has been in the business for 50 years. This is the worst match he has ever seen in his entire life.
Since the 70s.
Since the 70s, owning the company since 83. You can ask Carl Anderson or Luke Gallows. He said it was the worst one he's ever seen. I kind of took it as a badge of pride. I'm like, oh my God, everything you've seen, you know what I mean? You've been through the Hogan era, through the Austin era, through the Brett era. You've seen every single match possible, top to bottom. You've seen Sifi Afi, dude. You know what I mean? Right. Sifi Afi, and we had the absolute worst match of all time. That's kind of an accomplishment. So yeah, it was It was a lot of fun back then.
The worst match he's ever seen. I mean, that's That's quite a bar, Dax Harwood.
I know.
That's your 8th star.
I hope that no one has reached that bar. I hope we're still the worst match he's ever seen. To be fair, I don't think he even knows we were employed there for 8 years, to be honest.
Yeah, it's likely. But this match doesn't even happen, which is goes to show how much.
Yes. I know
because
yep.
The Ucey Hot. So if you don't remember, the Usos came out and revealed that they put a substance called Ucey Hot, which is not a real thing. Icy hot is a thing. And they put it in your trunks that sets your balls on fire. So you guys had to sell like the goddamn Keystone Cops, like Charlie Chaplin, that you guys were in pain. There's the gif you tweeted today where you had both your hands on your face like Macaulay fucking Culkin.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. It's hilarious in retrospect. What'd you think at the time? And what can you tell us about this?
It was hilarious then too. We thought it was funny. We were gonna. I knew going into it, I was gonna make the absolute most that I could out of it, and I wanted to oversell it. And I wanted to show him like, hey, dude, we're more than what you think. And even if you're going to try to embarrass us until we leave, we're going to have fun doing it. And after that, as soon as we got to the back, the last thing we did on stage was I did this forward roll, and then I barrel rolled all the way through the curtain to the back. And when we got to the back and stood up, we got a standing ovation from everybody, Vince included. And Paul Heyman, who I don't trust, any more than I trust my fucking dog to read the Bible when I go upstairs. He came up to us and he gave us this hug and he said, "Oh, you always thought you were going to get over by being a great wrestler, huh? You thought you're going to get over by being a great wrestler." He said, "Now you're over with the man." And he pointed at Vince. I was like, "Oh God, dude, fuck off."
He ruined it.
Yeah.
But ruined it. You guys having this great moment and he wants to come over and make it a fucking coaching moment.
Yeah.
And you guys took chicken shit, made it chicken salad, though.
To be fair, that's a lot of The Office. Whenever you're high on Vince's list, everybody is your best friend. Everybody loves you. Everybody thinks you're the greatest thing in the world. When Vince doesn't care about you, that's when they forget about you, and that's when they don't have time for you. It is such a oof. Dude, you're getting me a little heated now.
It's 2019.
Did somebody say Road Dog?
Yeah.
Babe, did you say Road Dog?
No,
you didn't.
No,
she didn't.
No, Road Dog.
What's up, Cassio?
No. Yeah. Hey, Cassio. This seems to be the approach. I think the plausible deniability put forth by Bruce and other people, Bruce Prichard and other people, is that, you guys need some character, and this ironic thing of, oh, you guys are actually clowns, or this ironic thing of you guys wearing these crazy outfits that they presented to you. That was their idea to create differentiation. But you felt and you feel that the wrestling and the wrestling characters should be enough. To be fair, they didn't present you as anything but these guys like old wrestling. Like
they didn't present us as anything but that and guys who wore trunks and boots and lost. That's all they presented us as. I think if 2022 proved anything, it was people care about people, because all we were real people, and we got the opportunity to speak, and people couldn't. I don't mean this to be egotistical, so please, guys, don't take this as egotistical. But I feel in 2022, I proved my worth, obviously, as a wrestler. People have put over my wrestling matches I've had, but also as a speaker, and as a promo. Every time I got the opportunity to speak, I feel like I took advantage of that opportunity. We rarely got the opportunity to do that in WWE. So how can you grow from a character standpoint? How can you grow any more than what you're stuck at and what you're presented at? You talk about Bruce, and we've got our heat with Cassio Kid in that podcast. Let's go ahead and get our heat with Bruce and Conrad, I guess.
Yeah, Bruce hates me anyway. Go ahead.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah, fuck it.
But, Bruce, again, another guy who's going to go along to get along, right? And I don't blame him for that because he's got to do a job, and
that's his job. And he's great at that job, right?
So before these little the clown outfits or whatever we want to call them were presented to us, the initial idea was Cash and I we'll expound upon this, I'm sure, a little bit later. But the initial idea was Cash and I were going to be a different 80s wrestler or a different 80s tag team every week. Bruce told us this, right? He called us at his office and told us, and he tried to sell it on us as the greatest thing in the world. This week, you guys are going to, or, you know, week one, you're going to come in as the Fantastics. We're going to give you these little, the little trunks where your ass cheeks are kind of hanging out. You're going to be wearing coattails and high top hats, and you're going to come strutting out, sequins everywhere. And then the next week, you're going to be the bushwhackers. And you're going to come out, you're going to lick each other's heads, and you know you're going to do the bushwhacker walk and all this stuff. And then the next week you're going to come out in tassels and wearing old rock and roll headbands. You're going to be the Rock and Roll Express. And the following week you'll be Bobby and Dennis, and we're going to give you guys mullets. And you know, and it was like, you think this is money? You're going to waste again. This is when we had turned down the contracts, and they were like, okay, well, they're not going to do it. So you're going to waste television time to have us do this just to embarrass us. That's the part to me that's stupid. You know what I mean? Not giving us the characters of that's stupid. You're going to waste television time to embarrass us. Why? To make Vince laugh. And then Bruce is going to call us in his office, you know, to try to sell us on it as it is this great this great visionariest idea. You know, and I looked at Bruce, and you know, we kind of had words, and I'm like, Bruce, you think this is good? You're trying to tell me this is good. He said, this is great for you guys. This is what you need. I said, but I'm going to be making fun of the people that I think have built this business, have built this legacy. And we're not only going to shit on us, me and Cash, but we're going to shit on them too and tell the people, oh yeah, the Rock and Roll Express, they were nothing but jokes. You know, they came out in sequence and just marched around and shook their asses. Oh, the Fantastics or the Fabulous ones, yeah, they just came out and did their little deal. And it was, you know, it was all corny wrestling, 80s wrestling stuff. But these are my heroes, you know what I mean? And so the very day that, or excuse me, the very next week that he told us that, we got our verbiage where they were, you know, they gave us the verbiage where we said something like going down yonder to sit on the creek with our grandma and grandpa and shoot some muskrats or whatever they fucking think rednecks say. And I had the mic where I was, you know, practicing this verbiage, and I said, this is some real Martin Scorsese shit. I threw it down, and I got called to I got called to Hunter and Bruce's office. And to be fair, Hunter did laugh at it. He thought it was funny. But again, Bruce was just trying to sell us on this idea. Sorry, I got off on that tangent about that.
Yeah, it goes to, like, everything you've said. You're like, I'll go with it. Ucey Hot, I'll go with it. Shaving the back, I'll go with it. Even maybe doing some redneck stereotype shit. I'll try it. I'll go with it. But what pisses you off is the intent, right?
Right. The intent, and also that they had never they'd never really devoted.
And the lack of faith.
They never devoted TV time to us to develop as characters, but now they were willing to devote television time to stuff like this, and on top of that, to try to embarrass guys that I consider to be heroes. That was kind of the thing that bothered me. And also, someone, as you know, Bruce could have easily said, hey, look, I know this isn't the greatest creative in the world, but as professionals, just go out there and show them. You know what I mean? Show him you can make this work. But he didn't. He tried to sell it to us. And then, you know, he said, everybody, Bruce, oh, God dang, we're going to stop talking about after this because we can make this a whole show. Right. But Bruce said, you know, everyone says you guys are, you know, he said something like, everyone compares you guys to Arn and Tully being this great tag team. He said, but honestly, Arn and Tully never drew money. And I said, Bruce, you think so?
Yeah, he said no. Same stuff on the show. Yep.
Yeah, he said, no, they never drew any money. I said, so you're telling me 1985, 1986 Crockett, they didn't draw money? No, they didn't draw any money. With the Four Horsemen, Bruce? No, they didn't draw any money. And I'm like, oh, God, dude. Okay, whatever.
Yeah, that's a viewpoint he has for sure with Crockett, and I think that just is a us against them mentality. We'll get off of that subject.
Please do, yes. If you want, you can edit that shit out too.
We'll probably talk about it. before the next Raw, you guys are going to travel to England. But before that, you're wrestling some house shows. And one of the house shows was Hawkins and Ryder retaining their tag titles over you guys and the Revival in a three-way. But the reason I bring that up is because now we have Shave Your Back chance. How do you feel about that?
That was great heat for us, I think that they had kind of they didn't know what they were really doing. I think Vince also thought that it was still kind of the 80s and 90s mentality where where the fans aren't as smart to the business as they are nowadays. And so they were giving us these shave your back chants, and it was doing the opposite of what they expected it to do. And there were a lot of the portion of the audience that saw what was happening, saw what was going on, and had sympathy for us. So they jumped aboard the train just to give us something.
Well, if you're looking to get something, I'll tell you what, you can't do any better than going to Main Event Belts. Main Event Belts sponsor and just makes really great belts. Wrestling belts, replicas, customs, and if you've ever dreamt of being in the main event, now you can with Main Event Belts, a championship belt making company that designs and makes custom belts to the same specifications you see in top promotions. They've made belts for Harley Race and Jim Cornette and Jake Roberts, even those young bucks, DDP, Vader, Jerry Lawler, and more. They have worked with many independent promotions around the world who are looking for quality, but also at an affordable price. And if you collect belts, if you like belts, or if you're looking for your first, this is a good way to kind of get in between, get that affordable belt, but also high quality. Because if you want your replica to look more like the real belts you see in top promotions, then have them replace the plastic strap with the real leather. They'll re-leather it for you. Main Event Belts leather crafters can do this. If you want to make your belt sparkle, you can replace the plastic stones with Swarovskis and cubic zirconias just like they use on TV. A real championship belt can be for any occasion, work event, wedding, school, or celebration. Time to make your main event dreams come true. To do that, go ahead and contact maineventbelts@gmail.com or just go to maineventbelts.com. They ship worldwide, and right now, you can get a real championship belt starting from only $9.99, but with the promo code FTR10, you can get 10% off of your first order. You're going to need some belts at some point, right? You're short these days.
Well, my hope is that 7-star is going to grow to 8-star, 9-star, 10-star, 5, okay, maybe 11-star, and we need some more belts. But the truth is, eventually I'm going to run out of wall space, so I need to consolidate all these championships and accomplishments to one belt, one FTR legacy belt. And so that's what I've been talking to Main Event Belts about, is a legacy belt for FTR. And I'm excited to see what he comes up with. I'm excited to offer it to a few select fans, which he and I will talk about soon. But yeah, it's an opportunity to have a piece of history that I can commemorate to myself and Cash, as egotistical as that sounds. But also, the new trophies nowadays are wrestling belts, are championship belts.
The Super Bowl winner is getting one, you know?
Yeah. So whether it's it's a poker tournament or, a recreation basketball tournament or whatever, championship belts are the new trophies. And, there's nothing more beautiful than a championship belt, a well-made championship belt.
Absolutely. We'll definitely make sure to hit up our friends over at Main Event Belt, and we thank them for sponsoring the show. And you had a show coming up in London, May 13th Raw. You guys wrestle against the Lucha House Party, but you did an interview to build up the idea that you're going to face the Usos to see who the top tag team is. And you acknowledge the silly stuff, but here you go again, Dax, trying to book your own angle. And this one is, again, before the Bucks, you're trying to build up the two best tag teams. How receptive were the people in the back to that kind of plot line for this feud?
Like, you mean our contemporaries?
No, like the brass. Like, if you're, they're presenting it at one thing, but you want to present it as the two best tag teams. Was that something that you think they got behind?
Uh, Probably not. Well, to be honest, now that I think about it, they're the ones that told me to do that. They're the ones that, because they said, okay, we've done the funny stuff. We've done the stuff that gets you heat. Now you're pissed off. You know what I mean? Now you're frustrated. And now you want to have this match to prove to them that you're the greatest tag team in the world, and beating them will, they wanted to make the feud serious now. They wanted it to go from being this ha-ha comedy thing to actually being a serious endeavor, which hopefully could make a little money, or at least have the potential to make some money.
And, you know, as we know, there's nothing better to build up a pay-per-view match than to have a match. You know, the May 20th Raw saw this match today. Great match.
Oh,
great
yes.
match.
Yep.
So fun. The Revival, their first TV match against the Usos. It lasted 10 minutes. Meltzer said it was a good match. I think it was a great match because no one gave a shit, Dax.
Mm-hmm.
No one gave a shit in the audience about the match.
Right.
But by the end of it, you had, as Tony Khan would call it, justified. This is awesome chance. What did you think, dude? It's fucking great. Really good.
I love the match. I love the psychology of that match because it's not your typical match. I've said it before on our show, and I've told a million wrestlers this. They may not believe me, but shine is not a real thing. You know, you shine people up. And I loved this match because we started the match off getting heat. We dug into we dug into, I can't remember if it was Jimmy or Jey who were putting the heat on, but we dug into him and we didn't let off the gas, dude. And I remember I got heat and I got yelled at because I kept my jacket on, but I wanted to keep my jacket on because Cash jumped one of the Usos from behind to start the heat. And anyway, we got the heat, had a false finish right at the very beginning, and we put a little bit of heat on. And then going into break, they made a comeback. And that's all shining up is. All shining up is putting someone down at a deficit and having them crawl out of holes. And that was it. He crawled out of the hole and overtook us. And we went to break, and we came back from break. We came back from break with a little more heat. We had him back down. We got into like a hot tag, and then the wheels were going, and we just man, we made those people believe. I remember we made them believe in one of my proudest moments on the WWE main roster, which, it sounds weird to say now because it really wasn't that high profile, was whenever Jimmy dove out and hit Cash with a dive, slid right back in the ring as he's sliding him right there, and I catch him right for a small package. Right. 1, 2, the people thought it was over. The small package with the kick out immediately into a super kick. Boom. I go down. He goes for a cover there, the kick out. And then the finish was one that we stole from Rock and Roll Express and the Russians. The backdrop into the O'Connor roll, hold the tights. Yeah. 1, 2, 3.
It really worked. And you guys now get your win. You get your win over the Usos. So people think you're taking it a little more seriously for about 4 seconds until Alexa Bliss comes out. And you guys say, because you won, you should be the guests on the Alexa Bliss show. And they kind of had Dash kind of, frothing at the mouth for, as Meltzer said. And she seemed kind of skeeved out by the whole thing character-wise. Not really the best way to follow up on that match, was it?
I think that was a backstage deal, and we came to the back. She had a backstage deal. I remember we were supposed to come in, and we were supposed to be very animated and happy that we won. So I come in, pretended like I was playing the trumpet or something, and I was in a marching band, and I marched by Alexa, and my shoulder barely brushed her shoulder, barely brushed it. I beg people to go back and watch it. Barely brushed her shoulder. As soon as it was over, we got called into the gorilla position, and Vince chewed me out because he said, "Men don't touch women." And I was like, Vince, well, I was just walking past, in a pre-tape, you're confined to a very small shot, and everyone has to be shot in that. You can't get out of the picture. And I was like, I barely touched her, Vince. And it wasn't like I came and gave her a shoulder tackle or snubbed her like this. I was just walking past her and barely brushed it. So I remember getting in trouble, which probably set the course for the rest of our tenure there.
It's all because of the shoulder bump. Everything.
I guess so.
Lots of questions from Twitter. This is kind of an interesting one. Not sure if you have an answer. Sami Zayn has referenced this. KO mentioned on Twitter. Can you confirm the idea that the Usos love the Waffle House? Do you happen to know what their order is, or do you have a specific order for Waffle House?
I can't confirm or deny. Don't know their order, but if you don't love Waffle House, I don't know if I trust you.
Right.
Waffle House is incredible. Scattered, smothered, covered. The waffles are great. Oh my gosh. The chili. I mean, I shit my brains out the next day, but I love it as it's going down. Yeah, dude. Waffle House is the best road food you can have.
It's dinner and a show.
Yes. Yeah.
It's fantastic. So May 27th Raw, they ran the first of a series of block party segments. So they had these segments where they, I love when your memory gets clicked on something. And the Usos brought up that the Revival wasn't invited, but the Revival showed up. But Naomi said that she invited you guys to see if they could squash their beef. So, of course, as wrestlers would do backstage, you guys started playing cornhole and then not getting along. What did you think of this segment? Yeah,
fun, easy, allowed us to speak, allowed us to grow as characters, and it was better than having a 2-minute match against the Lucha House Party that we had done before in the past. It was I loved it. I thought it was great. That was the stuff that we needed to grow.
That's awesome, because I mean, you're definitely not wrong about that. And I say this because this is kind of setting up the future, is that they're building up this idea that Shane McMahon is going to face Roman Reigns in Saudi Arabia. And so there's a segment of Lance Anoa'i, Roman Reigns' cousin, getting beat up by Drew McIntyre, who's with Shane McMahon at the time. When did you find out that you were going to start working with Drew and Shane?
That day. It took me by such a surprise. We felt like we had finally started to catch some steam. We had finally started to grow as performers and as characters, but also we were finally getting some heat behind this with the Usos. So, instead of having just cold matches with them, we could finally have a match that we could sink our teeth into and tell a real story. But from what I understand, Shane wanted this. He wanted, I remember Michael Hayes was talking about it. Shane was talking to Michael Hayes about it. I apologize. And Shane, we had the little interaction with Shane and Drew, and we came to the back, and Shane said, "There's something here, Michael," talking about the four of us. He said, "There's something here." He said, this could be like the Four Horsemen. And, I was excited that he said that because, he's the owner's son, but I was, I was pretty heartbroken because I knew we were getting taken away from the Usos and what we were doing with them.
But it was a good way to kind of connect those stories, though. You had Shane with Roman and the Usos with you guys, and it started June 3rd, Raw. It's a segment with Reigns and Shane. Roman Reigns said he's done with Shane. Excuse me. Roman Reigns said after he's done with Shane, he's going after McIntyre. McIntyre came out and said they don't need their partners. They can just fight right now. But this distracted Reigns, and the Revival attacked you from outside. The Usos made the save, and now we have our 6-man match. McIntyre and the Revival against Roman Reigns and the Usos. What a time it was. 14 minutes, super fun match. The beginning of... Man, I thought FTR was the shortest-lived faction of all time. Of the shortest-lived faction of all time, the new Four Horsemen. What did you think of this segment?
It was, again, exciting to be working with main event level guys, Roman, the Usos, who I considered main top guys too. Drew, who they were grooming to be a top guy, and then again Shane, who was bigger than a top guy. He'd had a presence on television since 1998 in the Attitude Era, and I thought with him being Vince's son, that we would finally get some much needed television time. So that was, again, it was fun and exciting, exciting time. But I also knew that our feud with the Usos was going to take a back seat. And that was, again, just upsetting because we started hitting on all cylinders, dude. We knew we could have great matches with them, but we also knew that not getting the segments directly with them, that this feud wasn't going to be able to grow. It was just going to be a backdrop to Shane and Roman. But dude, also I want to say I loved working with Drew, man. He was so fun, so easygoing. Wanted everything to work. He wanted us to work too. And I'm a huge fan of his in-ring work, but I think he was a fan of our work too. And knowing that we finally would get the opportunity to kind of show it to a bigger audience in this feud, I think he was excited for us as well.
Yeah, Drew is a guy who, it's like they've got him in the chamber when they need him to be a main eventer. Like, Drew is still just at the very top of his game. And it was good at the time because you're thinking, wow, Shane? Drew, who's presented as top guy, now you guys are with him. What is a lot said about Shane McMahon? What is Shane like? What is Shane McMahon like in real life?
He was so sweet, so accommodating, so nice to us. Great person, great human. I've heard the most recent story of him from that Royal Rumble or whatever, but whatever that story is, he was not like that at all. At least from what I saw, and we worked pretty closely with him. I remember he wanted us, like I told you, to be presented as the Four Horsemen. So he asked for us to go get suits. We had to go buy suits for television, and he made sure that they reimbursed us the money for those suits. And when we won the SmackDown Tag Team Championships, I think it was the SmackDown Tag Team Championships or the Raw, I can't remember, but one of the tag team champions. He was the first person to come up to us and tell us congratulations. We took a picture. I have the picture on my phone, but Cash and I took a picture with the belts, and he stepped in. And he said, "Hey, would you guys mind taking a picture with us?" So he took a picture with his phone, or they took a picture of the three of us with Shane's phone. Oh, wow. I wish he would have posted it because that's one I'd like to have too. But yeah, he was a really, really good person, and I think he was looking out for the best interest of the business, but just like any other wrestler would, he was also looking out for the best interest of himself, because if you don't, nobody else will.
And Drew and Shane, as are in the category of were really awesome to Matthew when they didn't have to be in different moments. So good guys, 100% supporters, big fans of both those guys in and out of the ring. You're set up now. You're involved in this Reigns thing because Super Showdown comes up June 7th, which is Shane McMahon versus Roman Reigns. But in the pre-show, or the first match, you guys face the Usos, and the Usos beat you. You're just laughing. And also, you get to make a Battle Royal appearance. Tell us about the Super Showdown in 2019.
Yeah, dude, we were exhausted because that flight is, luckily we had a chartered flight, but still that flight is so exhausting. It takes so long, and the time difference is completely the opposite from what it is here. So, I think we only had 6 or 7 minutes or something for that match with the Usos.
Like 7 minutes.
Yeah. So it was very short, but it was fun for what it was. But I just remember after the match, we were in the back and we were in this hallway with the Usos, and we were all just trying to stay awake. We wouldn't sit down because if we sat down, we knew we'd fall asleep. But we were standing there, and I remember me and Jey had fallen asleep on the wall, passed out on the wall, right? And of course, we had been awake, but we had just closed our eyes. And the very first person that walked by as we closed our eyes was Vince. And we're like, fuck, he saw us sleeping, but whatever. I couldn't get any more hot water than what I was. So
Why would that be a big deal if Vince saw you sleeping? Because he's a Superman and never sleeps?
Well, no, but maybe, but because the show was still going on and we were staying up watching the monitor. You know what I mean? And so it was us and the Usos and maybe a couple of other people. But we were watching the monitor and we had fallen asleep watching the show. So it kind of looked, I guess it looked like on the surface we didn't respect the show, or maybe we thought that.
Right.
But we were just so exhausted from not sleeping, because I remember for that show we had left, I think, SmackDown and went straight to Saudi.
We're going to get right back to the show, but I want to tell you about a product that I use, and a product that's now a sponsor of FTR with Dax, so I hope you use it too. If you've never used a mail delivery service, I would encourage you to try HelloFresh. I started using it during the quarantine. I still use it for a variety of reasons. But for you, you might have New Year's goals that you promised yourself you'd stick to. HelloFresh is there to help you eat better by delivering fresh ingredients and easy, trust me, easy recipes right to your door, taking the hassle out of dinner time. You skip the extra line to the grocery store and the long checkout lines. You spend more time doing the things you love with delicious chef-crafted recipes delivered to your doorstep. At least 40 they have now. 40 weekly recipes to choose from. So say bye-bye to your recipe rut. You know, sometimes it feels like we serve the same meals over and over again. That's one of the reasons that we use a very expensive delivery service more often than we should. But HelloFresh will save you that money because it is much less expensive. And by the way, it takes about as much time as it takes them to deliver it to you. So you might as well make something. And for me, it was a good way to kind of bring family together. It was something you could cook together, but it didn't take a long time. So it was a time you could bond, you could get something done, you could enjoy each other's company, and you could eat delicious food, which you can customize, by the way. You can swap your proteins or sides, or even add a protein to a veggie dish. You can do whatever you want. It's very customizable. I dig HelloFresh, and I hope you do too. So if you want to get started with this, it's a great idea. Saves you money, right? Brings you together, saves you time. Go to HelloFresh.com/FTR65 and use code FTR65. Why is it 65? For 65% off plus free shipping. Go to HelloFresh.com/FTR65 and use code FTR65 for 65% off plus free shipping. Try HelloFresh today. It's never been easier to get started. You got the great discount using FTR65. They are America's #1 meal kit, and I think it's time for you to give them a shot. Thank you, HelloFresh, for supporting the podcast. I gotta get online and customize my new order. Back to the show. Yeah, and straight back to Raw.
Yes.
3 days later, June 10th, Raw, and McIntyre and Shane are in the ring, and they call you guys out. They said, hey, maybe we're a thing, but we're only a thing if you bring the gold, because you have a tag match coming up against the Usos and Ryder and Hawkins in the three-way for the titles. At that point in time, you think this Shane McMahon, Drew McIntyre, Revival in Suits faction is here to stay, is going to be something?
Well, I thought so, and that was what I was talking about earlier when we won the belt. So it was the Raw belts, and that's when he was the first person to congratulate us and took a picture with us in the back. I thought so, and you know, us getting the belts, the Raw belts for the second time, I thought maybe there's something here. Maybe Vince is starting to have a little bit of trust in us and thinks this will be something. To be fair, though, dude, I am probably the worst looking guy in a suit. I don't know if there's anybody else that looks worse in a suit than me, because my body is so weird. My hips are kind of small, but my muffin top's huge. That sounds like a song. But I look weird in the suits, but I thought this could be something. And we, you know, that period in time, we were going through so many different factions.
Right. We
We had this faction, then we went to the faction with Randy, and then after that one folded, we went to I think we had one with Corbin, Dolph, and us. And then when they stopped that one, the last thing, I think it was one of the last things we did on television, actually. It was us, Shinsuke, and shit, there was one more. Oh, Sami Zayn, yes. Us, Shinsuke, and Sami Zayn, and we beat down Braun Strowman, and we were supposed to be a faction. And then that's when we finally turned down the crazy amount of money, and they stopped bringing us to television.
Yeah, it's not... You know, none of these factions got names. Well, FTR, I guess, had a name.
Really quick, that last faction with Sammy, Shinsuke, and us, after we attacked Roman Reigns, the plan was, excuse me, the plan was for us to go to Saudi and wrestle Braun in a handicap match, me and Cash.
Well,
but we had told, we had told Carano and Vince from the last Saudi trip, we were never going back. We were not going back, put our names on the do not travel list for Saudi because we don't want to go back. And they booked us, and we saw it on our TR app that we were going to Saudi, and we went straight to the TR office and said, we told you we're not going to Saudi. We're not going to do it. We're not going to board that plane. And that's when they changed the directive of that angle, that feud, that faction. And then that's when we started getting taken off of television.
And Sammy ain't going to Saudi either.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big issue.
That could have been when they had Shinsuke versus Braun for the Intercontinental Belt, maybe. I can't remember.
And maybe they just wanted to bring you guys in to run in or something, or you know.
No, they wanted us to have the handicap match. They told us that, but when we said no, we weren't going to go. I think they changed the plans to Shinsuke versus Braun.
Man, they really. That's unusual for them to change plans. So that
especially then.
Just okay. So you guys win the tag team titles over Ryder and Hawkins and Usos. The crowd wasn't super into it, but they got into it.
The finish, yes, I remember that.
But the finish seems very Dax Harwood to me.
Yes.
You got a Uso flying off the top rope, but it's a three-way, so you go ahead and tag yourself in. It's Jimmy or Jey. I'm very sorry. They're both wearing shirts. It was hard to tell. Goes off the top rope, rolls away. You sneak in right away and get the win, get the titles. That seems like your idea.
Yes. Well, they wanted a shit finish, and I remember thinking we could do something like that, but I felt like it had been done to death a certain way. But to be honest, one of the Usos pitched it that way, and I started thinking, okay, so if they go for their finisher out of our corner, you know, and we're down, and we sneak up right at the last second, and they even showed a slow-mo, I believe, of him coming off the top rope and me making the tag right before he jumps. If he hits that, boom, and as soon as he does, I shit can him out of the ring and cover him. We could get some heat off of that. So honestly, it was the office's idea for us to have a shit finish, but it was the Usos' idea for how the finish went down, and it got us heat. It got us a lot of heat for that.
You win the titles, and now you're in the faction with McIntyre in the suits and Shane McMahon. And nothing's better, I don't think, for a new faction than to get the entire faction, get the shit beat out of it by Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns comes in, beats the hell out of you guys in the hallway. They're trying to build up Drew versus Roman. You guys now have the titles, but Roman comes and beats up everybody. Does that do him any good? It certainly didn't do you any good, but how does that build up a Drew and Roman match? Well,
I mean, I guess it does him good to some extent because he does, beat down four guys. But this was the issue that I had with the Pinnacle too, and I know we're going to go do a whole interview or a whole podcast on that. But having the babyface beat up the four brand new heels, right? These four brand new heels in the faction does nothing. If we establish these heels, and it's like the thinking from a lot of bookers or whatever is that, they're heels, so people don't like them, and the baby faces can beat them up. But that's not the case, man. We got to make these people believe in us first as heels, that we are a threat, that this faction is a threat. And you you can't go from 1 minute, because 1 week we did beat down Roman, but then the very next week or a couple of weeks later, then he gets his retribution. But if he gets all of his retribution, then 1, we're not a threat. 2, there's no more heat. You know what I mean? And that was how I felt about the Pinnacle too. I felt we should have gone a little bit longer of getting heat, but establishing us as top guys. Shane was a top guy at the time, right? Drew was not a top guy at the time, but they were grooming him to get there. And obviously me and Cash weren't top guys. So instead of giving all 4 of us the opportunity to grow and be presented as top guys and get the opportunity to get over, then we get beat up. That's how you make the heels and make your baby face and turn. But instead, it was just 4 guys out there who got beat up. And, that's, in my opinion, that's not the way the booking should go.
Not if the idea is to get people to want to see the match, in my opinion.
Right.
Because you think about the Horseman. I mean, Dusty didn't get his hands on the Horseman very often, and certainly not soon after getting his ankle broken.
Right.
And it was June 24th, Raw. You guys have a fun 8-man tag. Just listen to this. It's the Usos and Big E and Xavier Woods of the New Day against Daniel Bryan, Eric Rowan, and the Revival in an elimination match. Super fun match. You have anything to say about that match?
I don't remember that match at all. I'll have to go back and watch it. It sounds fun.
Yeah, it definitely was. It was in Daniel Bryan's hometown, so even though he's a heel, the yes chants were out of control. You guys travel to Sumo Hall to Japan. You wrestle both nights. You wrestle Hawkins and Ryder, retain your title, and Gallows and Anderson the following night. Meltzer said that your match against Hawkins and Ryder was probably the best match of both shows.
Wow. Not against Gallows and Anderson?
No, against Hawkins and Ryder.
Wow, because the match with Gallows and Anderson was probably the best match we had on the main roster. Seth even put a tweet about that match. After that match was over with Gallows and Anderson. We didn't wrestle Hawkins and Ryder. Gallows and Anderson wrestled Hawkins and Ryder, and whoever won that match went on to face us for the tag team championships. So we didn't wrestle them. And then we wrestled Gallows and Anderson won that match, and we went to wrestle Gallows and Anderson that night. So maybe he misspoke or had the wrong guys.
There's a lot of words in this damn thing. He does occasionally make a typo, and this might be one of them. July 1st, Raw. It's right after the sumo shows, but most importantly, it's explained as Paul Heyman's first show running Raw. So Heyman comes in, Bischoff comes in, and now Heyman allegedly has the reins of Raw. You've talked a bit about him before, but I just kind of am curious about the political makeup. Are you now reporting to Heyman? Is Heyman the guy, or is this just all figurehead bullshit and it's still Vince?
When it first happened, I think there was a lot of promise in him being there, and I remember him being on the main headsets with Vince, and he was at the very beginning. I think Vince's idea was to have him and Bischoff come in to shake up the creative, and he was going to give them the power of creative. But like any narcissist billionaire who built a company from the ground up, he eventually took back over and he couldn't do it. Yeah. But we weren't, we were still answering to Vince, but all the writers were the same. So you were still getting the same directive from those writers. But after the matches or after the angles or promos or whatever, you would talk to Paul, and you would kind of, get his feedback or whatever.
Did you ever get the impression that Paul dug what the Revival was about at all?
I think if you've heard any story about Paul, Paul was a fan of everybody. At least
at least he told him he was. Right?
Yeah, at least he told him he was. Right. So I think that the real no, that's too much of a headline. I'm not even going to say it, but I don't think that he never said anything bad to us or about us. He always said positive things to us.
And this all leads to the match that's been built with several matches with the two teams. July 14, 2019, Extreme Rules. What is the thinking, do you think, in having you guys interact so much before this match?
Well, I thought we should have been built up as the two best tag teams in the company. And again, we shouldn't have touched until the match. But yes, we had a ton of matches. And at that point in WWE, that was their booking mentality, was to have, whatever the main feud was to have an iteration of that match somehow multiple times, whether it was an 8-man tag or 6-man tag or 4-way or 3-way or whatever. That was the style of their booking for whatever reason. I just remember this match, I was not super happy with it. Not because of anything, just my performance. I wasn't happy with it. I don't think anything bad happened in the match, but I do remember the opening of that match, or the opening of that card. I think I'm right about this, was The Undertaker and Roman against Drew.
Mm-hmm.
Drew, yes. And we had to follow that. And this was The Undertaker's first match in forever, right? And then you've got the main guy in the company, Roman Reigns, and they're opening the show. And so we had to follow that match. And they had a good match too, a really good match. And we had to follow that. And it was just, start and stop booking for a team that they didn't care about in us, and they didn't believe in us. It was just a death spot. And I was just, I was so unhappy with my performance and the what that match produced.
You kind of had to be happy, at least looking back on it, on the shape you were in. Like, you were in maybe your peak, at least aesthetic-wise, physical shape. You had the ridiculous tan. Do you look back on that time and you feel like, wow, I'm really becoming a sports entertainer?
At that time, I was starving myself, doing a shit ton of cardio and working out all the time. And then the thing is like, when you start doing that and you start starving yourself, especially someone like me who has all this excess skin, and that's gross, from being such a fat kid, at first you're going to look decent, right? And then eventually you're going to lose so much muscle mass, you're going to look skinny fat. And that's eventually what happened. I just continued to starve myself and continued to do hours and hours of cardio. I mean, you can ask my travel partners, Dan and Elias. I mean, I would never miss a day in the gym. Right. And yeah, I was super tan. I'll tell you, this happened so many times. I'll tell you a couple of quick stories. We were going through a border town, I think coming from Canada to the U.S., and I was so dark and so tan. It was me, Elias, Cash, and Chad Gable. And the Border Patrol, as we're driving through, he stops us and he asks for the passports. And he shines the light on everybody. And it's just like a movie, dude. Shines the light on Dan, who's driving, Cash, and he says, "Are you a U.S. citizen?" "Yes, sir." Shines the light over to Elias. "Are you a U.S. citizen?" "Yes, sir." Shines the light to Chad Gable. "Are you a U.S. citizen?" "Yes, sir." And again, remember, I'm completely brown, dude, from all this tan. He shines the light on me. He said, "Are you a U.S. citizen?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, You are a U.S. citizen." I said, "Yes, sir. Look at my deal," So he couldn't believe it. And then another time, the same period, I was flying back home. And I was it was a 2-seater plane, like a 2-seater row and a 2-seater. And I was in the emergency exit row, right? And there was a Latino woman next to me, and I was super dark again. And in these exit rows, when you're flying, domestically, you have to speak English. You have to be able to speak English. Right. So the stewardess came over, and the flight attendant came over, and she said, "I'm sorry, do you speak English?" She's talking to the woman, the Latino woman. And she said, "No, I don't speak English." And she said, "Okay, I'm going to have to ask you to change seats because, it's a rule, it's a law that they have to." And the woman couldn't understand what the flight attendant was saying. And so the woman looked at me and she said, do you or she said, hey, she looked at me and she said, hey, you guys are going to have to move. I'm very sorry. I said, wait, I'm going to have to move. And she said, oh, you're not together. I said, no, I'm American. And she said, oh, I'm so sorry. So it's, I was tanning a little too much back then. I had to lay off the tanning bed.
You were going hard with it. And July 22nd, Raw, it was Raw Reunion. One of these things they were doing so many things at the time to boost up ratings, to 2 out of 3 falls matches and reunions. And Rikishi was supposed to give the Revival and Devon stink faces, Meltzer said, but ended up not being medically cleared to give a stink face. So was that the plan initially? You're going to get stunk face?
So the initial plan was we were going to have a promo opportunity with John Cena that night. It was going to be John Cena and the Usos, and he was going to introduce Rikishi, and it was going to be us, and we were going to have verbiage with John Cena. So I was so excited about it. One, having the opportunity to work with one of the biggest stars in professional wrestling history, but two, also to be able to have some verbiage with him and spar with him on the mic. Right. And that would just put us in a whole different light, give us a whole different viewpoint, give the fans a different viewpoint on who we were. And that got cut right before we went out. And then the match was just a feel good match. We were supposed to get the stink face from Rikishi. Again, I'm sure, whatever, Vince probably thought it was hilarious, but yes, Rikishi ended up not being medically cleared that night to give us the stink face. But it was a fun match. I really enjoyed the match. I think it only went like 6 or 7 minutes or something like that. It was a very short one too. But it was weird having Devon out there with us. I know that it was supposed to be their dad coming out with them and then a tag team legend coming out with us. But I'm pretty sure that they would have wanted Arn there with us, but they had just fired Arn not too long ago before this. Right.
And Devon was a curious choice because although a tag team legend, not somebody that you associate with the Revival.
Nope, not at all.
As you would. So, speaking of things happening to the Revival, July 29th, 2019, Meltzer said somehow he got the idea that this was the show that Heyman had the most influence. He got that idea from somebody.
Yeah, I wonder who.
And in that show, you guys lose your tag team titles. You mentioned how much of a game changer it would have been to work with Cena. You mentioned having, we're get a chance to show our characters, Ucey Hot, shaving the backs. But you're still kind of clinging on to relevancy on TV at the time. And those titles were a big part of that, I think, at the time. It gave you a certain light, as you like to say. What were your thoughts on losing those titles?
At that point, dude, it didn't bother me at all. I mean, we had our mind made up where we're going to go, what we're going to do. So it didn't bother me one way or the other. I would have much rather it had been losing the belts to the Usos in a tag match with a proper built-up story. Right. By this time, with the Rikishi and Devon match, we were I pretty sure we were already done. They had already dropped the idea with Drew and Shane and us. So now they just stuck us right back with Usos with no heat. So it was start stop, and that's the death nail for anybody. So I didn't care. I would have much rather dropped it to the Usos in a standard match, but I think we dropped it to Gallows and Anderson in the three-way, right?
Three-way with the Usos, yes.
Yes, that's
Jey,
right.
You did not get pinned.
Mm-hmm.
Or neither member of the Revival got pinned.
Right. So that was the only upsetting thing, I guess, was not having a proper angle with those guys and, finally having a finality to that match.
Do you get told that the Drew and Shane thing isn't happening? Does Shane come up to you and go, dude, fucking bad news, bro? Nothing? Or it's just like, did you ask, or did you just go, well, just more bullshit?
Nope, just more bullshit. It was that Shane and Drew thing was more than looking back on it, was more than I could have imagined it to be, because they knew we weren't going to resign. And, it was just more reason for us to leave. That's all it was. Yeah, no one told us anything. We just came to TV one day, and it just wasn't a thing. Losing the tag belts, the way we found out was Gallows and Anderson, we were walking into the building. They were in front of us. We're walking down the hallway, and Paul Heyman, who was a big fan of ours the week before, saw Gallows and Anderson. And he holds his arms out to them, this big loving father, and says, "See, I told you just to trust me, And he's, and they were like, what's going on? You're getting the tag belts tonight. Big hug to those two guys. And I just walk by and laugh. It's just, it's all a game. It's all a political game.
Wait, that happened in front of your face?
Oh yeah. Yeah. As we were walking in the building,
he didn't turn to you and go, "Oh, sorry, by the way."
Nope. Didn't say one word to me. Not one single word to me or Dan.
I would last 4 seconds there. God, man. So that's it for the Usos and the Revival. We did have a question from Twitter about similarities between the Usos and the Young Bucks. A lot of people put them in the same category. How are they the same? How are they different?
I think the only similarities is that they both use a similar wrestling move. That's a super kick, and they're both brothers. Other than that, they're completely different guys in the ring. The Usos are more fighters and brawlers, and the Young Bucks are more flyers. And they both have different, kind of the same, but in different ways, psychology on their matches. I think that I don't think they're the same at all, to be honest.
Well, there you go. There's not a long list of TV matches between the Revival and the Usos. I count 5. And I think you wrestled a few times on house shows. There was a random match that took place in January 2017, 2020, the last time you guys faced in WWE on SmackDown, the Usos versus you guys. Any memories of that at all?
Not really. It was right after the Fox era. Am I right? Right after that.
Yeah.
No, just we didn't have very much time in the match. I don't believe. I think it was a very quick match, and I think it was again a 6-minute match, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was a short match.
Yeah, just to put them over, and they were again sweet guys, great human beings, and they were like, "We're so sorry, dude. We're so sorry this has happened to you," and we're like, "No, man, no, we don't. We're okay. We know what we're gonna do. We know where we're gonna go." We thought we were done in April until Mark Carrano was a slimy snake and stabbed us in the back, but that's for another day. But yes,
we had that day. We already had that day.
Yeah, there's a lot more slimy and snaky stuff he's done though. So not just us in general. But yeah, we knew what it was, and we knew what our jobs were there at the time. And they weren't happy that we weren't re-signing, and we weren't happy with our position in the company. So it was just time to mutually part ways.
So in 2023, the Usos are now, in a lot of ways, individual characters in what many consider, myself included, one of the greatest angles in the history of wrestling. The Bloodline, Sami Zayn, Roman Reigns, Jey Uso has a big role in that as well. I know you don't watch wrestling, watch wrestling, but have you seen any of the character work by Jey over the last couple of years, Jimmy, and this Bloodline feud heading into WrestleMania 2023?
Yeah, I've seen all the clips and stuff online. I haven't sat down and watched a WWE show in a very, very long time. Again, not because I don't want to, just because I'm trying to make up for lost time with my family that I didn't have for the first 5 years of Finley's life. And then before that with Maria, even before I made it to WWE, I was working 3 jobs. I've told that before, and going to school. And so we rarely got time. So since I've been in AEW, I've been trying to make up for lost time. So I don't really get to watch the shows very much, but I've seen all the clips online and all the GIFs or the posts. And that's what I mean. You know, when I talked about my top dream matches of 2023 and those guys being there, maybe the top of the list, you know, it's because we have I feel that Usos and FTR have paralleled each other as far as character work, rising the ranks, becoming all-time greats, and completely changing who we were just a few years prior. And so I think that there is more money than ever to be made with those guys now. And I think that we know our limits as who we are in the ring. And I think they know their limits as who they are in the ring. Like, there's no reason to try to do a shooting star press, because that's not who we are. We're fighters, you know? And so that's the watching their ascension and ours all happening at the same time, and their character work just shooting through the roof. That's what excites me.
There's a lot of from Twitter about them as singles now, because they've done such a good job of what's impossible, differentiating these twins. Do you feel like either or both could have a singles career near the top of the card with Roman, maybe against Roman at some point?
Yeah, I mean, those two guys are so talented, they could do whatever they wanted to do. They're made for the wrestling business. They were born and bred into wrestling. Incredible athletes, good human beings on top of that. And as far as characters and speaking, they're great at that too. So whatever they wanted to do, it's just hard when you've been predominantly featured at a tag team. It's always going to be harder to disassociate yourself from the tag team partner. And if you try too hard to disassociate yourself from the tag team partner, that makes it even harder, because the people say, oh, we see what's going on here, you know? So it's one of those things that I feel that it has to organically just happen. You know, like for example, for me in 2022, it just organically happened that I started to grow a little bit as a singles performer. Not saying that I wanted to, but that's just what happened. Right. That's where the chips fell for us. Or is it chips fell? Cards fell?
Yeah,
whatever that saying is. Okay, there we go. Yeah. But you know, it's got to organically happen, and I think they're so talented it could.
Well, that's the story on the Usos in WWE. We don't want to be people that ask Dax to talk about things he doesn't know about. This is an area he knows about. He was there, and he's seen it, and hopefully an Usos dream match in the future. Guys, don't forget, we are going to WrestleCon live, FTR with Dax Harwood.
Yes.
We're still planning it. Of course, you get yourself a T-shirt. We have some great designs over at daxharwood.com. But before we go, do you have a non-Twitter or non-wrestling,
there we go,
a non-wrestling Twitter question of the week, Dax Harwood?
Yes, I do. And usually this is a moment for me to be somber or like serious. So I'm going to try to take that away just this week. And this one is from at Rassel, WRASSLE Haas, using the hashtag FTR with Dax. He said, when did you realize you were a tequila guy? Because here's the thing is with tequila, man. People associate tequila with Jose Cuervo or going out with their friends and taking shots of tequila and then feeling hungover and feeling like shit the next day. The tequila process and how they make tequila is what interests me. And then the taste of the tequila and finding these new different tequilas and getting, like I was doing today with the aromas and seeing what aroma overpowers this one. Like I took one yesterday, and I can't remember the name of it, but I smelled it, and the first thing I smelled was the black pepper. And this was a still Blanco, so it was the ABV was a little bit higher, but the first thing that I smelled was the black pepper, and then followed by the black pepper I could smell the agave. And so I tasted it. Very first thing was the agave, and lingering on the palate was the black pepper. And then today the El Tesoro, the first thing that I smelled was the agave, then followed by some citrusy smell. Then I took the taste. And again, the first thing that I tasted was the agave, and lingering on the palate was citrus. And that's what I enjoy, is just finding the different ones, them having their own characteristics. You know, you drink vodkas, they're pretty much going to taste the same, just some quality is better than the other, you know, like a Grey Goose is going to be a little bit better than Burnett's, you know what I mean? But I also enjoy learning about tequila and the process and what certain tequilas go through, what additives are put in, what are not put in. So it's just, you know, I think when I first found out I was a tequila guy was when I first tasted Clase, and that's what got me hooked on it. I loved how smooth it was, the taste of it. Now, you know, growing more into the tequila game and learning more, I understand that some of the additives there, you could taste the additives in it, and you can separate the additives and you know, things like that. But also with the Clase, I could taste the agave too, which I loved, and again, it was very smooth. But now growing and learning, I think that's my favorite thing about the tequila genre is learning about it.
And now, before we go, Dax Harwood, do you have a wrestling match of the week?
I do. So initially I was going to go with Arn and Tully, the Brainbusters, against the Rockers from Madison Square Garden, January the 23rd. They had two different matches around the same time. One was January the 23rd, 1989, and there was another one in Madison Square Garden in March something, I can't remember, 1989. But I was going to talk about the January match, but I think I'll save that one. And since today's since today's podcast was about the Usos, let's talk about a match that made me become a big fan of the Usos. And it was Battleground, I think is what it was, 2014, 2 out of 3 falls, Usos against the Wyatt family. And I love that match so much because it's not a typical match. It's not your typical quote unquote babyface shine, what everybody perceives to be babyface shine. It was a match where the Usos were trying to sell for these huge monsters, and these huge monsters were dishing out a crazy amount of punishment, and the Usos valiantly kept fighting back, and that's what made the people care about this match. You never knew where they were going to turn. You never knew what where the match was going to go. It was fun following along with that match and the ride that they put all the fans on. I absolutely love that match. If I was a wrestler, that's a match that I would go back and watch to see the distinct difference in selling from a heel monster to a white meat baby face, and see how they both sold so differently. Obviously got one of my best friends in the business that I ever had, Harper Brody. And again, it also shows how your matches don't have to be structured like every single match. The babyface doesn't have to get all of his quote unquote get all this shit in at the beginning and then just get stopped for a set of heat and then let's just go to a whole bunch of false finishes. They built the match up so beautifully and told such a great story with these perennial babyfaces overcoming every single obstacle. And you know, it was a beautiful tag team match. Probably the tag team match that kind of helped keep, and the tag team feud that kind of helped keep tag team wrestling alive in WWE at the time.
Because that Wyatt family, that was fun stuff.
Oh,
that
yeah.
was good stuff at the time. And the Usos in 2014, this is Battleground 2014, were not who they are now. Like, this was a big deal for them to, in 2 out of 3 falls against Rowan and Harper, who were monsters compared to them. Great match suggestion. Great episode. Of course, guys, check us out live WrestleMania weekend, March 30th. It's a Thursday, and it's right after the Super Show. It'll be the kickoff event of the weekend. Go to FTRwithDax.com for your tickets. Dax, any final words before we sign off to our listeners or about the Usos?
Well, to our listeners, and hopefully they'll join us on the live show. You never know who will join us in Los Angeles for our live show. So I hope you all come to have fun, come with a shit ton of questions, come with a shit ton more tequila, and let's just have the time of our lives in Los Angeles together. As far as the Usos go, I think they'll go down as the greatest tag team of all time in WWE history. And that's not me kissing any ass, because I never would. Obviously, I'd love to say Brett and Jim would be the greatest tag team in WWE history, but I think the Usos, now, when it's all said and done, at the end of their career, whatever you want to say, they'll be the greatest of all time in WWE, because the greatest of all time is sitting right in front of you. Half of the greatest of all time is.
All right, by now, guys, you know I love talking about old wrestling. What you might not know is it's not my real passion. My real passion is helping people save money. My real passion is getting families out of apartments and into houses. My real passion is getting people's finances aligned so they can retire on time. I hated going to Walmart and seeing the greeter being 80 years old. She should not be working. She should be home. Why is she still working? Because she still has a mortgage. I want to help avoid that for you. The other thing I want to help you with, let's make sure your kids don't get saddled with student loans. If you've got a student loan, why did you get one? Maybe because your parents still had a mortgage. I'm not saying that to be funny. I'm being sincere. There's only so much money to go around. What I want to help you do is figure out where you are right now and where you want to be long term. And I do it at SaveWithConrad.com. I've been doing mortgages for more than 20 years. And during all that time, we've helped tens of thousands of families change their life. I mean, routinely, we're helping our podcast listeners save $500, $600, $700, $800 a month. But more importantly, get them out of debt faster and with cheaper monthly payments. But if you don't think it can happen for you, let me just tell you this. We are not the bank. We don't say no. We say not yet, but here's how. We're going to get you a game plan on how to improve your credit, how to save a little bit of cash, and how to get into that dream house. Maybe you're already in the house, but it would be nice if someday we could put a pool in the back, or one day we want to upgrade to hardwood floors, or remodel the kitchen, or get a badass master bathroom. I can help you do all of that with no money out of pocket right now at SaveWithConrad.com. You don't need perfect credit. You don't need money out of your pocket. And if we can't help you save some cash, we won't waste your time. Check it out, SaveWithConrad.com, NMLS number 65084, equal housing lender. And hey, y'all, don't take my word for it. Check us out. We've got an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. And as if that's not enough, go look at our reviews. Read them and weep, haters. ConradReviews.com. You'll see more than 1,000 5-star reviews. Our average review is 4.72 stars. Find out how much money you can save. Take control of your life in 2023 by taking control of your finances. We're going to show you how to keep more of your own money. If you've got credit card debt, what are you paying on that? 14%? 28%? You know you can do better. With the mortgage, though, you may not know this, the interest you pay is tax deductible. And we can even show you how to skip your next 2 house payments. So if you can get a lower monthly payment, pay your debt off faster, get a greater tax deduction at the end of the year, and right now, right after the holidays, skip your next 2 payments, buddy, this is the biggest no-brainer in the history of the world. Find out how much money you can save right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com, or hey man, shoot me an email directly, Conrad@SaveWithConrad.com.